to tell you is that, I can just tell you that Bernie Sanders is, in my humble opinion, among the single most responsive people to the needs of the people of the United States. Bernie doesn't ask what are the odds. Bernie asks, is it right or is it wrong? Yeah. Bernie does the people's business, and he never fails to do it. And I want you to know and never forget that in 1991, two very cool things happened. One is Paul Wellstone went to the United States Senate. And Bernie Sanders went to the House of Representatives. And they are spirits walking together, and we are spirits walking with them. Everybody put your hands together for Bernie Sanders.
Outstanding members of the United States. Way back when Keith was a little boy, when I was elected to the handle, I started the Progressive Caucus. We started the Progressive Caucus because we thought that working folks needed a voice. This guy is the chairman of the Progressive Voice right now. How many members do you have in that caucus? 7. It's one of the largest caucus in the House, or it's the largest caucus in the Democratic. All right, largest caucus on the Democratic side, and he is doing 10 times better than I did when I was chairman. So he has been a voice for working people all over this country. It's the fancy podium, big screen TV. Old-fashioned politics, and it makes me feel very comfortable about it. What I want to do this morning, in a sense, I am not going to give you a rather lousy speech. What I want to do is have a discussion with you. I want to chat for a while, tell you what I think is going on, and we'll open it up for discussion. You are here today. You support Keith, Al Franken, and others, because you know that we are living in incredibly serious times. And what our job is to do in these incredibly serious times is to figure out where we are, how we got to where we are, and how we're going to move this country in a different direction. And this is complicated stuff, and it's hard stuff. And you all understand that we are up against unbelievable opposition in every step of the way. So that's what I want to do with you this morning. Let me just start off by talking about a very simple issue. And that is, where are we as a nation today? And I think what most people understand, if not intellectually, they understand it in their gut, that there's something profoundly wrong with what's going on in the country. Why is that? They understand this wrong because in many cases, despite the huge increase in productivity, what do I mean by that? I mean, you all know space technology, iPhones and iPads, robotics, all of the technology that has made the average American worker more productive. If you stop and you thought, you say, okay, I'm going to give you a tool that makes you twice as productive. And you say, oh, that's great. That means I can cut my work hours in half. Or maybe you'll pay me twice as much. Thank you. This is really good stuff. And I'll tell you a funny story. When I was in college, this is true. Some of you who are as old as I may remember this. They taught classes in college about what Americans would do with all of their leisure time as a result of automation. I mean, it's really hard. You're working 10, 15, 20 hours a week. What are you going to do? They don't teach that course anymore. Rather, the courses they now teach are how you deal with all of the stress that you have when you're working 3 jobs trying to make a living. All right. So what Americans are saying is they all of this technology, and what's happening? And the bottom line is that I think is most people know, bottom line is, middle class is disappearing. Once the United States of America was the envy of the world for a whole lot of reasons. Well, one of the reasons was that we had a strong middle class that was growing. We had poverty, but poverty was going down. And today in America, in one sentence, what the economy is about is a disappearing middle class. And today, with 46.5 million people living in poverty, that is more people in poverty than any time in the history of the United States of America. Since 1990, and you turn on the TV, and you see these guys who are very, very angry. Let me tell you what they are angry about. Since 1990, median family income, that's the family right in the middle of American society, has gone down by $5,000. That median family person today earn less income than they did 25 years ago. How's that? If you are a man, a male worker today, made $283 less than he did 44 years ago. How's that? And if you are a woman, you made $1,700 less last year than you did in 2007. And here's a frightening statistic that should get every person in this room truly nervous. Half of the American people have less than $10,000 in the bank. What does that mean? That means if you have an illness, you're going to go bankrupt or be in a financial disaster. You have an automobile accident, you need a new car, you get divorced and you're a woman, you don't get a good settlement, your life is irreparably damaged because you don't have any income. And among other things, you talk about stress in America, you talk about mental health in America. Tens and tens of millions of people are worried what is going to happen tomorrow. What happens? Somebody was just telling me about a plant shutting down. You lose your job. You got $8,000 in the bank. How long are you going to stay and live with me? That's the economic reality for many, many Americans. Today, in terms of our young people, we have some 7 million young people in this country who have graduated. They graduated high school or they dropped out of high school. And you know what they're doing today? Nothing. Because real unemployment in America is not 6.7%. That's the official unemployment. You all know that official unemployment is not real unemployment. Real unemployment includes those people who have given up looking for work and those people who are working part-time, of which there are millions, and they want to work full-time. Real unemployment is close to 12%. Youth unemployment, close to 20%. African-American youth unemployment, close to 40%. So we got all these kids sitting out there. They're not going to school. They're not going to work. I'll tell you what they're doing in Vermont, and it breaks my heart, and I suspect it's not different in Minnesota. They're turning to drugs and self-destructive activity. And the end result of that is today in America, we have more people in jail than any other country on earth. China, huge, communist, authoritarian country, has fewer people in jail than we have. In terms of education, now let's get back to the economy. In terms of the economy, I was driving around Minneapolis a little bit, and the story is not different in Vermont. In the last 15 years, we have lost over 50,000 factories. How's that? 50,000 factories and millions of decent-paying jobs. And not all of that loss is attributable to trade. There's been a lot of robotics or automation and so forth and so on. People shut down for all kinds of reasons. But a lot of that has to do with trade agreements that said to corporate America, that was pushed by corporate America, way back in the early 90s, when I was a member of the House. I remember like it was yesterday, every bloody corporation in America, chamber of commerce, you have to pass NAFTA. You should create jobs in America. Well, I never believed it then, and I surely don't believe it now. But what we passed was NAFTA and CAFTA and permanent normal trade relations with China. You don't have to be a PhD in economics to understand what that's about. So if you're General Electric or any big, large corporation, why do you pay an American worker 15, 20 bucks an hour, deal with the union, have to deal with environmental regulations, provide health care? Why do you have to do that if you can move to China or Vietnam or any low-wage country? And that's, of course, what they do. So all of the major corporations have downsized. They've gone abroad. In terms of education, to me, as a human being, and the reason you're here today, is that learning and education is an inherent, intrinsic part of what being a human being is about, right? But even above and beyond the fact that we should be learning from age 1 to the day we die, is the fact that in a highly competitive global economy, it goes without saying that we need to have an extremely well-educated workforce to compete. Right? No one does. Most of the new jobs that are coming out are fairly sophisticated jobs that require a certain level of education. In the United States, 30 years ago, we led the world in terms of the percentage of our people who went to college. Generally speaking, we were thought of as the best educated country on earth. You know where we are today in terms of the percentage of our people who go to college? We're 15. 15. Other countries understand that if they're going to have a strong economy and strong democratic societies, they need a well-educated population. And today in America, and I'm sure Keith gets the same phone calls that I get, families are calling us up and say, I want to send my kid to college. I have a bright young daughter. She wants to go to college. We can't afford to send her to college. What a loss it is to the young people themselves, but it is a loss to our country if we do not have that what that means in terms of politics and what Keith and I worry about a whole lot of things, as I know you do. Now that's wealth. In terms of income, that is what we made last year. Last year, and the year before, last few years, 95% of all new income went to the top 1%. Which means that most people actually sort of decline in their income. What does it mean? It means that maybe your health care benefits were cut, your wages were cut, you didn't get the hours that you had previously. So what we are looking at in American society, top 1% today earns more income than the bottom 50%. I know I've thrown out a lot of facts, but the point that I wanted to make is people on top doing unbelievably well, better than any time in modern American history. Middle class to superior. And as we speak right now, in Minnesota and in Vermont, there are people worried about having to feed their families. You have old folks who get by on $13,000, $14,000 a year in Social Security, having to make the choice between medicine or keeping warm in the winter. That is the reality that's going on in America. Last year, the top 25 hedge fund managers made more than $24 billion. That is equivalent to the salaries, the full salaries of 425,000 public school CEOs of large corporations today make almost 300 times what their workers are. So that is the overview of what is going on in the economy today. Now, what Keith and the Progressive Caucus have done, which I think is extraordinary, you may not, maybe in Minnesota, but actually they don't get that much attention because the media is not all that much interested in what Progressive Caucus talks about, or what I talk about. But what they have done is focus on all of these issues and come up with an agenda, a progressive agenda. So let me talk a little bit about some of the issues that I'm talking about in the Senate. I'm sure they overlap with what the progressives have